You're entering Corsi Nation.
This is Jerome Corsi, and today it is Tuesday. It's October 7th, 2025. Thanks for joining us on CorsiNation.com. We're doing podcasts every weekday. If you want to follow us on X, you can follow us at Corsi Jerome 1, the number 1, not spelled out as a word, but at Corsi Jerome 1. And Substack, it's JeromeCorsiPhD.substack.com. Okay, I want to cover a lot of subjects today, but I want to start in with Israel and the Gaza. We're seeing now that the talks are going on in Egypt with this peace deal, and President Trump has let everybody know that the peace deal better be done, or else. And I want to go at some length analyzing Netanyahu and Netanyahu's position, because I think it's time for Netanyahu to resign and to, once this deal is done, I think Netanyahu ought to stick it out and make sure we get a Gaza deal. But the key problem that Netanyahu has is Netanyahu attacked Qatar, if you recall, just a few weeks ago, without President Trump's explicit approval or even knowledge, I believe. And that was a bad mistake, because we have a base in Qatar, and it's very strategically important to us, and we don't want to necessarily destroy that relationship, even though Qatar is housing Hamas. Now, the leaders of Hamas are in Qatar, and Netanyahu was trying to destroy Hamas, and he's done a pretty good job of it. And I would like to think you could get rid of it all, but you probably can't until Islam goes through a reformation, and that's going to take some time too. Now, I want to discuss that whole issue because Netanyahu thought that he could force Trump into some kind of a negotiating position that was favorable to Netanyahu. Netanyahu overplayed his hand. So, September 9th is when he bombed Qatar. And Trump has begun to say, maybe support for Israel is not as strong as I think Trump in his heart is a very strong supporter of Israel, because I think Trump has come around to a very deeply religious perspective on his life. But at the same time, Trump's not a guy to push around. And we've had an awful lot of conservatives, including Megyn Kelly, begin to question Netanyahu and Netanyahu's leadership in Israel as a whole. Now, this is going to become an issue in the 2026 elections. And if Americans see that Israel is a drag on peace, or you've got Netanyahu here saying he's number one, and Israel's number one, not America first, you're going to fuel the left's argument, which is already strong in the universities, of pro-Hamas and pro-Palestinians and pro-Islam, because the left is radically anti-American, and so is Hamas, and so is Iran, and so is Hezbollah, and they're not going away. So here's what I'm recommending that Netanyahu should do. Netanyahu ought to say, look, I basically devastated Hamas. We set back Iran's nuclear program. We've crippled Hezbollah in Lebanon. We've gotten the Houthi rebels in Yemen under control. And so Netanyahu can say he's done more for peace in the Middle East than any leader in Israel has ever done. Okay, so Israel really only has one friend in the world, the USA. Without the USA's support, Israel's nowhere. Israel will not get any funding if they piss off Donald Trump. Okay, so bombing Qatar without Donald Trump's pre-knowledge and approval is a bad idea. And if you're Netanyahu, maybe you've just been around too long, getting a little bit old, and just had done this job for too many years. And I go back into 2000 and no, actually go back into, I'm just thinking now of the years, 1990 2004, when Netanyahu was just emerging in politics as a serious contender to be prime minister, and that's already 30 years ago. So he's had 30 years of being either prime minister or a candidate for prime minister, and very strongly influential in the Likud conservative party in Israel. That's 30 years. The American president, by comparison, at most is going to be 8 years, except for Donald Trump has now been around for, he's going to have a 12-year stint, if you include the 4 years of the Biden administration, in which he was denied a presidency. And we're going to hear a lot more about that in a minute, but I'm going to cover that as well. So the only way, that what Netanyahu should do is he should, once he finishes Gaza City, going in Gaza City and clearing it out, and then he's dismantled the Iran threat. He's dismantled Hezbollah. Now he's dismantling Hamas. So he should give a speech once the Gaza deal is signed, praising President Trump through every minute of the speech, saying President Trump has the key to the future and should get a Nobel Prize. And then he should say, Netanyahu, in this speech that he gives once the deal is done in Gaza, he should announce new elections, say he's going into retirement, and he should urge the Israelis to vote for the Likud right conservative bloc. Now he goes out as a hero. He becomes perpetuated in history as the man who saved Israel from the Israelis' perspective. Doesn't get any more corruption charges. He doesn't face any more criticism. He has done some massive things in the Middle East, and it's time to take a bow and get off center stage. Otherwise, you're going to find that Donald Trump is not going to go along with a guy like Netanyahu, whom he probably has come not to particularly like. Donald Trump is not a guy who likes to be pushed around. He likes to be the guy who is the center of everybody's attention. And Donald Trump commands it and deserves it, because Donald Trump's come up with two massive ideas. Number one is peace through prosperity, not war. And number two, expand the Abraham Accords, where all the nations of the world agree that we're going to allow Israel to exist as a Jewish state. Okay, now, Chris, you've got there's Trump and Netanyahu, and Trump's relationship with Netanyahu has been warm and cold. Right now it's a little cold. It has been much warmer earlier in the administration. And Trump is seeing now that it's a little more difficult to bring peace to Israel and the Middle East and Russia. And he's got to deal with both Putin and Netanyahu. I think Putin would well be advised to also take some lessons from what I'm saying and realize that not having a ceasefire, not moving in Trump's direction, is only going to perpetuate the war and bring us back to the brink of nuclear war. So both these guys have got to understand who they're dealing with in Donald Trump, Putin and Netanyahu. And if they both can park their egos for a while, we may be able to get somewhere. Now, Chris, you've got a video of one of the Muslims who have transplanted themselves into Great Britain. And I want to play this because it really shows what the Muslim expansion and immigration is really about. This is not about assimilating into other countries. It's about Sharia law and Islam taking over the world. Chris, what do you think? Let's play it.
I agree. We've been warned about this for a long time. Heck, the Quran warns us about this. If you really think about it, the idea is to spread Sharia law around the world and make it the dominant religion, and pretty much the only religion.
And to kill Christians and to kill Jews.
Infidels. We're all infidels. So
Right.
that's how that works. But this guy, he's a rank and filer. He's just basic guy coming from North Africa, I believe, and then infiltrating Western Europe. This time it's Great Britain. And he just basically tells them, this is not your land anymore. It's mine.
Play it. Let's hear it.
I'm not here to tell story. I'm here to rule. Fucking rule.
To rule?
I'm here to rule. To rule you, to rule Trump, to rule Elon Musk, to rule Netanyahu, to rule Jews.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
With that attitude,
what a strange thing to say. It's
a very poor attitude.
You're a great guest. You're a great guest in this country.
No.
You're a great guest.
What guest?
Yeah. So you're a guest here, and you're saying you want a ruler.
This is my land.
Is it? Is it? Okay, got it. Okay.
Like,
Millions and
this
millions
is
of people
Allah's
are our
land. Who are you
responsibility.
stopping?
Sorry, say that again.
This is Allah's land. The whole
here?
world is. Listen.
UK.
Why do you have so much pride? UK. Listen, I'm answering people. The whole world, everything which is in your consciousness is limited, man. This is why you are talking this kind of,
So the whole world is Allah.
Everything is Allah. What is world? World is. So world is a planet. Earth is this man.
It's quite common. Around the UK, it's quite a lot.
So these people do it, huh?
Well, yeah.
It's been reported on.
Yeah.
Report, fuck the report. So report.
Okay, that's enough of this. We got the point.
It's the mentality we're speaking to. And
Yeah.
this is the mentality Israel has to deal with when it comes to adversaries in the Middle East.
Well, in the same, I know it from Netanyahu. I've met Netanyahu, and he's, from all Israel has got to see him as a patriot and a guy who has really done a lot to save the country and build up security in the country, especially after the October 7th attack. Now, the October 7th attack itself was a reflection, I believe, of the left in Israel disarming Israel like they do all over the world. The Israel I know going back 30 years was very armed. It couldn't get around Israel without seeing people. The military would walk through the cities with their automatic rifles. And it was a secure place, much more so, of course, than they had all the suicide bombings. And, it's been Israel and the Jews have been under threat of extermination for 2,000 years. And you're going to have to come to a point where the world gets to understand that, that for whatever reason, God has chosen Jews as the chosen people in the Bible. And they were the first to believe, really, and establish the idea that there's one God, and there's not all this pantheon of gods, one God. And the Bible, it was fundamental to Christianity, is based on the Old Testament as its foundation. And so therefore, when the Bible says those who support Israel, God is going to support, it does not mean Israel's perfect. It does not mean Netanyahu is perfect. But it does mean that God is here for whatever reason God chose. And it may be God's test of us as human beings, whether we can get over our prejudice to accept one God and not have Satan rule. These Muslims who have hate in their heart. I mean, you can see the hate brimming out of this guy. Chris?
Yeah. But again, it's they feel, a lot of these people feel it's their mission to infiltrate other civilizations and push their beliefs. I understand your liberal friends are going to be saying, what about the Christian missionaries? Well, the Christian missionaries were there to convince, not to occupy by force.
Yeah, and I mean, every religion, until it goes through a reformation, is going to have this problem, that it's the only religion, the only true way to believe. Everybody else is going to hell. You've got to evangelize. And even Christianity had the Crusades during the Middle Ages, everybody leaving their homes and their families and going to the Holy Land as a big mob to reclaim it for Christ, to take it away from the Muslims. And the Muslims occupied all Europe once.
Oh, yeah. Maybe they're still upset that Queen Isabella beat them, because it's utterly humiliating to be beaten by a girl from them. I don't know.
No, there's battles that fought in Europe where the Muslims were defeated and thrown out. And it was another big historical event that people, again, don't remember. But places in Fatima, in Portugal, where in Christian theology, the Virgin appeared to these three peasant children. Well, again, Fatima is the name of one of I believe, the sister of the prophet or family of the prophet, Muhammad. Okay, and so here you've got a religion that has not yet gone through a reformation and is going to have to. It's going to have to renounce the idea of jihad, killing Christians. But, even in the end days prophecies in the Bible, you see that the persecution of Christians was going to happen. And it is happening right now. We're seeing worldwide persecution of Christians. And as Islam spreads in Africa, it's going to happen there. Happening right now. So again, we're going through not only historic times, but end day times. It certainly seems that way. And we're going to have to proceed very carefully, because otherwise a nuclear war becomes pretty quickly inevitable. And that's not going to be, I think, a particularly favorable end for us as human beings. Of course, Satan might like it and be thrilled to see it happen. And the Democratic Party seems to want to do everything it can to destroy. I'm going to cover that here in a second. But Chris, any final comments before? Let's talk about Schumer next.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a piece of work as well. He's trying his hardest to hold on to the last bit of power and influence he has. He's made a fool out of himself by with his silly chanting over the last few years. He's embarrassed himself as Senate Minority Leader, and now he's completely dropped the ball when it came to the shutdown. It's
Have you seen any of these sombrero?
Oh yeah, the sombrero things. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, okay, what they've done is they've done these AI little videos. I don't know if we have one around.
Yeah, I'll find one.
But with Schumer and all the Democrats in sombreros doing because the whole point, one of the major issues the Democrats want is to be able to get Medicare and public health and public benefits for illegal immigrants. And they want illegal immigrants to vote. That's their constituency anymore. Without illegal immigrants, I wonder how many elections the Democrats could win. Okay, so if you can find one of the sombrero videos, I had one yesterday that was really good. That's a good one there. But
there's an AI. This is kind of funny though.
Play it.
Welcome everyone to Sombrero Survivor Support. We're gathered here today not because we want to be, but because Trump forced it with his cruel, violent AI sombrero. Son of a bitch! We're here to heal, to share, and to find strength in our motto. We are all sombrero now! Today we'll tell our sombrero story before the sombrero tells it for us. I'll start.
I've got one here, Chris. This is the one I was looking for. We might have to take a minute off air to get it ready to show.
Yeah, of course.
But and I'll cover a little bit more while you're getting that one ready. I just put it in chat for you. Okay, you can pick that one up and let's get that one queued up. Because that's the best one I've seen so far. The sombrero deals. Okay, I want to cover a story on the what's really going on the shutdown. And that, so this Schumer shutdown, Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana took the floor of the Senate this week, and he laid out what this is really all about. He said Trump wants to take the stuff out of the budget that is wasteful, all this woke nonsense that the Biden people put in. And of course, the Congresswoman, they're calling her now Congresswoman, which is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, she went ballistic when the Republicans took out certain funding. Okay, but let's just listen to the thing the Democrats want to keep in the budget. Under President Biden, we were spending $3 million for circumcisions and vasectomies in Zambia. Okay, we spent $500,000 for electric buses in Rwanda. $3.6 million for pastry cooking classes and dance focus groups for male prostitutes in Haiti. Oh, yeah. Give me a break. Okay, $6 million for media organizations like the Palestinians. $833,000 for transgender people in Nepal. $882,000 for social media mentorship in Serbia. and 4.2 million for LGBTQ plus people in the West Balkans and Uganda. Okay, so I mean, these are the things the Democrats want to keep. They want to keep their woke agenda over citizens, and we want to keep the waste in budget so they can keep paying the woke and the immigrants who vote Democratic. That's what they're down to. The Democrats are down to Antifa. They're down to the Venezuelan gangs and MS-13. They're down to non-citizens voting. They're down to abortion on demand even after the child is born. They're down to sex mutilation of children, transgenderism everywhere, LGBT rule, and money thrown away for an electric agenda and climate change, which we now know to be a hoax. So the Democratic Party is on a death train. It's nowhere by no means dead yet. It's still got a lot of strongholds around the universities and in the cities, and it's essential that we get the voting under control. But Chris, why don't you play a little bit of this sombrero video?
Right, I have that up for you. So let's pull that. This is kind of fun. I like it. So let's see it.
1, 2, 3.
¡Ay, ay, ay! Gracias a Chuck,
There's AOC.
no hay paycheck. ¡Órale, mi gente! Government vacaciones.
That's not a good slate.
Se cayó la Casa Blanca.
So falls down the
are all
Casablanca White House.
Gracias a los demócratas.
Thank you to the
No more money
Democrats,
goes around.
because the money goes around.
Customs y tamales. The bags are full of trash.
I don't think it's that agile.
Chuck Schumer su bigote. Se acabó el cash. El Schumer shutdown. Ay, caramba, qué horror. Workers sin sueldo. But Congress drinks more. El Schumer shutdown. Tequila we pour. We broke en la casa. Pero fiesta. For sure. How tired.
Okay, that's good enough. We got the feel for that. Okay, let's go to gold. Gold today is at $3,988.50. Now, those of you who've watched Corsi Nation for some time know that for months I've been telling you that gold would be at 4,000 by the end of the year. Well, we're at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and gold is already, right at $4,000 an ounce, and silver is at $48.86 an ounce. Okay, it was under $40 not long ago. Okay, now gold is going to be above 4,000, and silver is going to be above $50 an ounce. I mean, these are incredibly high gains, and if you recall, please take a look at Swiss America. I'm telling you, you've got to talk with Swiss America, because you can get this. New customers can get this one-time offer of up to 250 of these Walking Liberty half dollars. Chris will show it to you in a minute on Corsi Nation. Go to the top of the page on the tabs. You can see where we've got the gold, Swiss America gold, and that's the Walking Liberty half dollar. All you have to do is fill out the form, talk to Swiss America. It's consultative selling, and you can get 250 of these coins for about what they're worth in silver today. They fill out that form and submit it. Swiss America will talk to you. You need to talk to Swiss America to understand why gold and silver are gaining in value. I've written a book on it. You can get a free book too, but I'll give you that in a minute. But silver is at $50 an ounce is affordable. You can get some silver. And by the way, gold, you don't have to buy an ounce of gold. You can buy fractions of an ounce, and yet you'll have some gold that'll appreciate in value. So even if your budget's just several $100s, think about talking to Swiss America, because you're going to be able to benefit yourself owning some precious metals. There's a lot of reports on this also that you can read that are free. We have them on the website. Go through the website. We get credit for it. And I want everybody to understand how important this is to us, that you don't lose your money. Okay, there's a free book I've written, which is happening right now, how a global economic crash is going to create an historic gold rush. It's happening. You get this by calling 1-800-519-6268. Okay, that's Swiss America. Write it down and do call them today. Don't wait. They're not going to bite you. They're going to talk to you about improving your financial condition. Okay, well, I authored this book with Dean Heskin, and it will educate you as to the trends I see happening that you can now follow. 1-800-519-6268. 1-800-519-6268. Get a free copy of this. If you have IRAs, talk to Swiss America how you can do a self-directed IRA, where you get a depository account with a Lloyd's of London guarantee in Delaware, and they can actually hold your physical gold for you in silver in your IRA, which will then appreciate tax deferred. Okay, so this is again, gold and silver. When you buy it, you don't have to declare the income tax on it while it appreciates, and not until you sell it. But even then, your gain is going to be tremendous in a market where gold is going to now be at $4,000 an ounce. When I started talking about this, it was at $1,800 an ounce. Those who took my advice back then, and there were many, have profited handsomely. Don't think this is the top of the market. It's nowhere near the top of the market. But get involved. Call Swiss America. Get the copy of the free book. Read the free reports on the website. 1-800-519-6268. Okay, now I want to move on to talk a little bit about Wisconsin. And Chris, put up gods5stones.com, because I think now we're going to have an article appearing in American Thinker. It's being reviewed today. But a Wisconsin judge in the state circuit court made a ruling that only citizens can vote. God's 5 Stone, that's Gods, but no apostrophe. You spell out the word 5, F-I-V-E. God's 5 Stones is plural, gods5stones.com. Okay, and we're covering a lot of subjects here on gods5stones.com, including the spiritual warfare that we're in. And a lot of material on here on Andrew Paquette's work, which is going to be the core of the work that will lead to an executive order from President Trump that's being written right now that will demand voter IDs and proof of citizenship to vote. We'll get rid of the computers. I'll have to have paper ballots and paper counting. We're going to have this all supervised, and ending the general mail-in vote, which is the core of the Democratic fraud. The Democrats won't win so many elections if they can't steal, especially in the cities. And, the presidential elections are got to be secured. Okay, so what happened in Wisconsin is this judge did demand the end to motor voter, because the motor voter was you can get a driver's license with a green card, and once you've got your green card, they get automatically registered to vote, even though you're not a citizen. A green card is not enough to be able to vote. That's what the judge ruled. Okay, and now the article I've written is with Peter Ticktin, Ticktin, who's President Trump's attorney. Been working with Peter Ticktin since the beginning of the year on Donald Trump's executive orders. We're at the center of this, and I'll be writing more about this because it's beginning to happen. Donald Trump is bringing out this information. And by the way, Peter Ticktin has been saying that Todd Blanche, Toddblanche, who is the Deputy Attorney General, is the one who is blocking executive orders on voting. It's the one who's blocking Letitia James from being prosecuted. It's the one who's not giving any more pardons. And Pam Bondi is working from her home in Miami. because Todd Blanche represented Trump during the trials in New York as one of his attorneys, and he gave very strong statements in favor of Trump, which Trump liked. But he's really a Democrat until he changed parties recently, and he's cozied up to Trump, and he's there trying to make sure that Tina Peters does not get out of jail. There's no voter executive orders, no more pardons. That's Todd Blanche. Okay, so I'm after getting him removed from the Department of Justice. He's a bad guy, and he's blocking a lot of what we want accomplished. Okay, now in Wisconsin, the judge ruled this. Now immediately, of course, what happened is that, of course, the Wisconsin Election Board and the Department of Transportation said, well, we'll just appeal the decision and say that there's no way we can take all the illegals out of the Wisconsin database before the 26 midterm elections. So in Wisconsin, the groups that are advancing this, and by the way, the groups for election integrity in Wisconsin are working with the White House. I know this for a fact. And this is all coming down through the Department of Justice, working through the state courts. It's just beginning. You see a lot more of this. Okay, but right now, it's all hands on deck in Wisconsin because Wisconsin in 2024 passed a constitutional amendment on the election day in 2024 saying only citizens can vote. Shouldn't be that hard. Well, the Democrats are being pushed into a position where they're saying, no, we got to let anybody vote, no matter who they are, whether they're legal or not legal, whether they're here legally or, let the MS-13 vote. Okay, so it's going to be complicated in Wisconsin, but what we're seeing now is we're facing really a coordinated insurrection underway, which is leftist perpetrators, which are now going for broke. Okay, they're increasingly deciding on physical violence. So you've got Antifa out there. Well, the Department of Justice needs to investigate who's funding Antifa, George Soros, and get some criminal prosecutions going. Because Trump has already said that Antifa is a domestic terrorist group. And if necessary, if the judges block him sending the troops into states like Oregon, well, then use the Insurrection Act, which Donald Trump is already teasing he will do. Insurrection Act is an act passed really around the end of the Civil War, which gives the president the right to call out the U.S. troops to put down an insurrection. Well, what we're seeing is an insurrection. We're seeing the Democratic Party fighting to corrupt voting. If we lose our voting rights, we lose everything. Okay, I want to read you a last paragraph of the article, which I believe will be printed in American Thinker this week. But I finished it over the weekend, and I think it's a very important article and one I definitely want you to take a look at. Okay, so I'm going to pull it up right here for a minute. Just give me a second, and I'll read you the last paragraph of what we wrote, because I think it's extremely important. Hold on one second. Here we go. Okay, and the last paragraph. All of the freedoms that we Americans enjoy could disappear overnight if elections are allowed to be rigged. The election of 2026 is actually the pivotal issue pending at this time. If Republicans were to lose the House of Representatives and the Senate, which could occur overwhelmingly if the machines are permitted to determine the outcome or if the algorithms determine the outcome, it could lead to a complete dismantling of the Trump administration with impeachments and possibly removal. If that were to occur, there would be no control over those who would weaponize their Department of Justice, Todd Blanche, against our own citizens. We the Catholics who like the Latin Mass, we're the real terrorists. That's what the Southern Poverty Law Center, which targets anybody who doesn't go along with their woke agenda as a terrorist, and YouTube and X, neither one of which will monetize me. And so the idea that censorship is ending, forget it. The left is still in control of the social media, and they're still in control of the mainstream media, although that's changing, and I'm going to end on that in a minute. Okay, so if that were to occur, if the Democrats steal the 2026 election, we're going to see a complete reversal of all that Trump has done. Okay, and so therefore, there's nothing more important than making sure right now. There's several things that there's nothing more important than, but making sure we get secure elections, and God's Five Stones is going to lead the charge here. And with your help and your support, spread the word, get people to follow this, even though we're being shadow banned. And we're going to continue to broadcast the theme that, the country is being saved by the efforts of Donald Trump. And we're with 1 inch of losing it. Had Kamala Harris won the election, we would be in desperate trouble right now. Okay, so I want to cover the story, Chris. This purchase of the Washington Post and I want to find out who did it. Hold on a second. If you've got the story, Chris, come on, because this I think is again important. Hold on. Okay, so yeah, Larry Ellison. So Larry Ellison is buying up the Washington Post, and this, I think, the Democrats are going insane over this, because what they're saying is that the billionaire Trump ally are going to build a media empire by acquiring leftist entities. So on Friday, this was not the Washington Post. I'm corrected on that. So they purchased. Basically, they're in control now. The Larry Ellison and his son David Ellison are in charge of CBS News. Okay, so this was through a purchase they did of a conservative website, and I'll see if I can find it here. The Free Press,
yes,
Press, right?
Free Press, yeah. They hired this woman who started the Free Press.
That's right.
As their, I guess, the editor in chief, and a lot of the lefty journalists in there are just losing it at this point.
Yeah, because the CBS has been one of their mouthpieces with 60 Minutes and every woke cause you can think of. And if Larry Ellison takes over, so the idea of conservative billionaires buying leftist media is beginning to happen. And Soros, I believe, is under investigation by the FBI. I'm going to be following that in God's Five Stones. Also, the massive amount of money laundering the Democrats have engineered, trillions of dollars, and that ties back to Act Blue. The Democrats have been funding themselves with money that China has been pouring into the country through its money laundering. I'm going to be covering this in another article this week. I've got a lot to write about because there's a lot going on. But if you follow us here at CorsiNation.com, I think you're going to be up on the real news, not what the mainstream media is feeding you, and pass it around, get others to listen to us. And I want to end with 2 books. I want to show Chris the cover of my book on the neo-Marxism, Truth About Neo-Marxism, Cultural Maoism, and Anarchy. You've got to read this book to understand what's going on, how the mentality of the Democrats have gone from Karl Marx through Marcuse, Eros and Civilization, his Frankfurt School, Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, his Liberation, 1970s, to where we are today with the Democratic Party, which is no longer just a communist party. It's an anarchist, anti-American, treasonous party that seeks to destroy America. And this book will explain to you the evolution of that. Another book, which we're going to try to interview the author, the first interview this week, Becoming Whole, which is a book that I got published. I'm an acquiring editor now at Post Hill Press. I can acquire books. And Becoming Whole, Meredith Miller, is about how to prevent the Stockholm Syndrome and transcend darkness in your life and relationships. It talks about the captivity we've been under, including with the pandemic, and how it's been engineered, and what the psychology of subservience is that is being, it's a brilliant book. And we're going to be covering this extensively. Okay. In the end, God always wins. God's going to win here too. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. You've got to join us in 2 Chronicles 7:14 as we get down on our knees, ask God to forgive us for letting this corruption, letting Satan run wild across the world. Wars, gender dystopia, wild sex, divorces, abortion. It's all against God's law. And if we do so, if we do get down on our knees and repent in enough numbers and sincerely, God will hear our prayer and heal our land. And I believe that's in the process of happening. The darkness is receding and light is beginning to shine again throughout the world. It's Dr. Jerome Corsi, CorsiNation.com. We'll be back every weekday. Join us, please, tomorrow and spread the word. If you like the show, support our sponsors. God bless.